thank you for coming into the studio today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Today we'll be talking about migrant health.
Mm,
There are times, as migrants, we don't really know how to seek help,
mm,
and that's why we are here today live and direct, just so that you can educate us
yeah.
on how to seek help as
Mm,
regards to our health.
yeah.
But then before that, you would introduce yourself to us. Let us know who you are, what you do,
Okay.
the salt of the head, who you are.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
It's a very big pleasure and an honor to be here. So my name is Dr. Zelda Ewar. I like to be called Dr. Zelda. I am an immigrant myself. I grew up in Nigeria and I came from the UK to the UK about 7+ years ago. I did my undergraduate medical degree in Nigeria. I worked in both public, private spheres of Nigeria, hospitals, HMOs before I decided to come to the UK. And coming to the UK in 2018, I mean, it was a different terrain, was different practice to what we were used to in Nigeria. I came in as a clinical fellow. I worked in surgery, mostly in urology. Then I rotated through medicine, old age and emergency medicine, psychiatry, and then finally, became a GP trainee. And then I'm now a GP and a GP partner. And I have extended roles. I'm very interested in mentoring people, mostly immigrants like myself, just making things easier for them and just helping them settle in. That's why I, made the WhatsApp group for the Nigerian doctors or Nigerian medics in North Wales, and that has thrived. It started with me and three people, and now we have over 100 people on there who have been paying it forward, who have left here. Some have gone to Canada, some have gone to other parts of the UK, Australia, and just thriving basically. So in summary, I am a GP partner that works in North Wales.
Hmm. Thank you so much, Dr. Zelda. And when you talked about the WhatsApp group, some of us just, joined then because somebody created a platform for
Yeah,
us. And it's been a great platform that we can ask questions, we can ask for help.
yeah,
When I say ask for help, I realize that some people by nature don't really know how to ask for help.
yes,
And it translates to every other dimensions of their lives.
yes.
Like even when they are going down, they're still quiet. They can't seek help. They can't
Mm,
just talk.
yeah,
Sometimes, probably, maybe their backgrounds, or maybe just that's what they are. But we
yeah,
can change our personalities,
yeah.
irrespective of how we grew up, how we were trained, what we were taught growing up.
Mm,
And for some people, they will say it's part of trauma.
yeah,
But sorry, that may not go well with some people. But
yeah,
life, I believe, life is never meant to be walked alone.
yes,
And that's why we are social beings as human.
yeah.
So we'll be talking about migrant health today. Why do you think this is very important, Dr. Zelda? Considering the kind of job you do,
Yes.
you are a doctor, you're a GP, you're a partner, you see so many things, you see
Yeah.
people. Why do you think this is important?
Okay, so first of all, we just need to clarify the role of a GP. A GP is a specialist doctor who works in the community. He's basically a doctor who's trained to be in charge of the community. That's just
Mm.
basically what a GP is. And you're the first port of call for anybody who's sick in the community. So my job has exposed me to a lot of things when it comes to migrants who have come from different parts of the world to the UK, whether it's from Ukraine, especially when the problem was happening with the wars a few years ago, or people who've come from Africa, you know, Middle East, Asia, and all of this. So we have exposure to those people because we do treat them. And there was some incentive from the government the time when the war was happening for you to just, treat those people, which we have done and we still do. So with the migrants, and I'm going to just talk specifically about the migrants from Nigeria because we are Nigerians basically. I can speak of the rest, but I will be able to be more at home with the
Yeah.
migrants that have come from Nigeria because that's
Nigeria.
where we have come from. So The basic thing is that as Nigerians, there's a lot of cultural difference coming from Nigeria to the UK, and based on the circumstances from which you came to the UK, you might have come as a doctor, or not, or a spouse of a doctor, whichever way you have come. Health seeking behaviors of Africans, speaking about Nigerians, we know that it's not the best. It's never been the best. And there are multifactorial reasons for this. Number one, I hope I'm not going too forward with my answers here.
No.
So I might be answering more questions that you've asked anyway, but let's just go like this.
Thank you.
So you have, first thing will be religion.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying religion not in a bad way.
Yeah.
I am a Christian, I love Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we as Nigerians have grown up to think that everything that happens is caused by the devil.
Yeah.
We don't blame ourselves for anything. We don't blame our habits. We don't blame anything. It's the devil. And when you're unwell, people will say things like, "Oh, I'm strong," but you're sick. But you say, "I'm strong," because people want to fake it till they make it. And faith is great.
Yeah.
You should have faith, but you should also have faith in the God who has caused the doctors to exist, and that there's a reason why they exist, and that they can help you when you're sick. So because of that religion part of things, and it's either Muslim, Christian, it doesn't really matter. But we go to religion first before we even think about the doctors. And even sometimes in Nigeria, if someone is so sick and then goes to the hospital and then get well, they go to church and give a testimony and say, God has shamed the doctors. You hear that? As if the doctors are the enemy.
Yeah.
But even there's the motto that God heals, but doctors treat. So religion is sort of like a barrier to people seeking help when they're unwell. They have to faith it first and do everything else but seek help, and then until when it's really bad, and then they present to the hospital. So that's the one thing. The second thing is being integrated in a new society. So there's fear, and the fear is that, okay, who am I going to see? Who's going to be my doctor? Is it going to be someone that has the same color of skin that I have? Is it going to be someone that speaks the same language that I speak? Is it going to be someone that can understand exactly how I feel or what I'm explaining, that'll be able to give me the treatment that I desire?
Or stigma.
Yes, so there's stigma as well, and that stigma comes from what sort of illness you have, and if it's mainly things like mental health problems, because there's a lot of stigma with mental health problems when you come from Africa. People don't talk about it that much. I mean, back in the days, I know it's getting better now, but there's a stigma of saying, oh, in Nigerian parlance, you say the person they craze. That's the thing. They call you a mad person if you have mental health illness. So people, if they feel that that's what they have, they shy away from seeking help because they don't want to be stigmatized, or they don't want to be labeled as crazy. And then there is also the other thing will be community. Community in a good way, because the way Africans are trained, or the way you grow up in communities, and when somebody is ill, that person might not be the one who goes to seek help. The person will know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that will say, oh, this person has this same thing, and they went to this doctor or that that person, and they got treatment. And then you are now, forced or encouraged to go and seek help in that way. But when people come to the UK, they lose the community. A lot of people don't know how to go about it. They don't know, should I go to A&E? Should I go to GP? Some people don't even know that when you come into the UK, if you have a resident status, whatever it is, that you're entitled to treatment, primary care, or the emergency service, depending on what the situation is. And the first thing you should do, even as a visitor, register with the GP that's closest to you, either as a full resident if you stay around there, or if you're visiting, you can register as a temporary resident, and then you can have access to healthcare, as it might be. And then we'll say culture and tradition. That's it. If you're sick, you have to boil hot water. If you have pain, boil hot water and massage your leg. If you have burns, put salt. There's all sorts of traditional way of taking herbs and all of that to treat, to seek care, to help care for yourself. and that the hospital or the doctors are always seen as the last port of call. I think I'll stop there.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zelda. You've really given us a good background, as to why we don't seek help and how we seek help, how our religious mindset set,
Yeah,
also encourages us to do some things.
yeah,
And you've not said it's bad. We are Christians, we
yeah,
love God, we
yeah,
love Jesus,
yeah,
but we're just saying that sometimes we just need to look at God's provisions in another way.
yes,
It's just like a woman who wants to give birth, and she's now in obstructed labor, as well as the ONG doctors, they would
yeah,
say, and the baby is not coming out. Naturally, the baby should actually come out,
yeah,
like there are stages, but
yeah,
then it's not coming out. And God gave people wisdom that you could do some things
yeah,
rather than the woman suffering fistula,
yeah,
stillbirth,
yeah,
so many
or even
complications,
dying.
dying, the baby dying, the mother dying, and being a loss to the society or
Yeah,
community, to our
yeah,
husband, families, and all that. So God gives some people the wisdom that this is how it can be done. It's just like saying God gave us trees,
yeah,
but there is no chair for us to sit on. How do we go about it? It will not disappear. But God decided to give some people witty invention that, you could make, table
from
or
yeah,
chairs out of the trees. And
yeah,
then we now realize that sitting on those plain trees it can be painful to our bones.
yeah,
So people this now decided to put foams.
yes,
It's part of God's
yeah,
creation. And one thing is, before you came, I was just thinking about gardening.
mm.
Imagine not tending a garden for 20 years.
Mm.
Like, you have a garden, it will become bushy.
Yes,
Reptiles will come in. It will
absolutely.
attract so many things, flies,
Yeah,
diseases, so many things. And
yeah,
then tons. And then in this time of pollens,
yeah,
plenty
yeah,
will be there.
yeah,
So when we look at our lives as a garden, God even said to Adam, just go and till the garden.
yeah,
So our health is the garden that
yes,
God has given to
absolutely.
us. So I feel that if we see our bodies as a garden, we would be able to look after ourselves well,
Yes.
irrespective of what we think, what we know, what we believe in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I used to ask a lot of immigrants once I see them, when was the last time you had your bloods checked?
Yeah,
Even maybe doctors. Okay,
yeah,
now doctors treat people.
yeah.
Okay, you can go there. And I'll share personal story as we go on.
Okay. So you speaking about, looking at your body
Yeah,
as guarding,
yeah.
that's a good illustration. But then you now look at the way Africans treat gardens and the way the white people treat gardens. You can also see, if you're saying the body is a garden, you see
Okay.
how much enthusiasm
It's
with
true.
which, the enthusiasm with which the
They grow
people, they
flowers,
grow
make it
flowers. You see
beautiful.
them tending to the gardens every day. It's beautiful. They water the flowers. But a lot of
Okay,
people
so
in
we'll say flowers.
yeah,
Okay, let's treat
so
our
so
bodies
so
like
even
flowers.
even like with Africans or Nigerians, not many people really care about gardens. They don't care, even flowers. Not many people really care. You have a flower as a gift before you know it's dead, because you don't really know what to do, because there are different type of flowers. Some
We
you need
didn't
to
really grow
water.
up,
With
that kind
because
of
that's what
culture.
that's why it's a culture is important. Religion, community, lifestyle, all those things is what make
Hmm.
the health seeking behavior different
Hmm.
from what we have back home and what we are here. And then money too.
Money.
Money is also a big thing, because in Nigeria you pay out of pocket for your
Pay
health
out,
care.
yeah,
Even people
it's
who
true.
are on the national health
Insurance.
insurance scheme,
It doesn't
you
cover
still have
everything.
to pay
Mm.
out of pocket for a lot of things. So I think when people come here, they think it's the same thing. It's going to be expensive. Can they afford it? Not knowing that at the
It's
point of
free.
service it is
It's
free,
free.
because you've paid. You pay tax, or you've paid some immigration health surcharge and things like that. You've come here.
So Dr. Zada, so I think that's a great point. So that may be one of the things,
Yeah.
that has affected us. Like, because back at home, I have to think of maybe that money
Yes.
before I go to see a
Yes.
doctor. So
Yeah.
I'd rather fit it,
Yes.
because I need money for school fees, I need
Yes.
money for other things. So, but now, we have now, for people that are here
Yeah.
or in other parts of the world where healthcare services is free. So that means we can quickly change
Yes.
our mindsets,
Yes.
because where we are coming from is different, where we
Mhm.
are now is different.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's a good point that you have raised. So now that's money is
No
not a
longer.
barrier.
Yeah.
So that means we can now become the barrier ourselves. So,
Yeah.
but we can change our mindsets.
Absolutely.
That's a great
Absolutely.
point.
Even the Bible says, renew your mind.
Every day.
And knowledge is far away. If you don't know, you can only do as much as you can only do things from a place of knowledge, and it's only as much as you know. So if you don't know that it's free at the point of service, you won't know how to seek it. And I have seen, like in my career or my time here, I have seen a few African people, Nigerian people. I see them on the way, or sometimes I see them in the hospital. And then I try to let them know that you can go to the hospital for this, or you can go to the hospital for that. No one is going to ask you to pay, And when I see them random, sometimes you will find that they will bring the baby. If they have a baby, they will bring the baby to see the GP, and they won't, the parents won't do anything, but they will bring the baby. Yeah, they won't do anything about themselves, but they'll bring the baby. I remember seeing a couple who brought their baby that had a rash to see me a few years ago, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I'm talking to them about the rash. I'm telling them, no, it's just a viral rash. It's quite common. Blah blah blah. Do this and do that. And then I'm asking them, okay, your baby's registered. Are you registered here? And then I'm asking them, I'm asking the husband, when last did you have your blood pressure checked? It was 38, I think. I'm like, when last did you have your blood pressure checked? Oh, he's like, I don't have my blood pressure checked. I don't even know his ages, and maybe never. And then I asked, what do you do? And he said, he's a carer. And then I said, that you're the one who needs to have your blood pressure checked. And I did check his blood pressure that day. It was really high. Jesus. And he had never checked it before.
Never.
Yeah. And then I made him, register, just get it sorted. He was then on tablet. Even till now, he still texts me. Randomly, I never saved this number, but you see, like Happy New Year. He still texts me, and sometimes I see them in the city center. The baby has grown to like 2 years old now, so I see them and still say hi, and they are happy that somebody bothered, because I know that the health seeking behavior is quite poor for some people, for some many migrants, basically very many, even those of us that are doctors.
True.
Even those of us who are doctors, like even me. I mean, maybe to an extent, so very little extent, I'm a bit different because I'm a sucker for preventive health or preventive medicine. I love is what I do. So
not just curative.
Yeah, not just curative. So I like things to be prevented. Like I have a family history of glaucoma. My mom has glaucoma, but she's very well managed and she's fine. But I make sure that I have my eye checked. Very frequently, and I told them, there's a family history of glaucoma here, so they do check it every time I get the pressures in my eyes checked, because I know that that's there.
And that's because maybe somebody opened up in your family to let you know, because there are times that family members may not even know what is affecting the other person. Everybody knows, like, secretive way of doing things. Like, I would share my own personal story and my journey, and I'm glad for the kind of example you have you've given us, because sometimes families, this are part of genes. We don't know how. We can't blame God.
That's why we say it's culture.
Yeah.
The culture of hiding your illness.
And when some things are in the gene. Like some people, maybe because of their gene, they have sickle cell.
Yes.
And except miracle happens.
Yes.
Yeah. So and we need to know where we're coming from, our background, not even just social status. I'm the daughter of a king.
Yeah.
So we need to know what are the patterns. Actually, today I was thinking about it. Health patterns in my family. As we talk about spiritual patterns, in the family, these are the things that happens. We also need to know the health patterns. Let me quickly go back to that example of that man you talked about. You know what you did for him with the help of God? You saved his life.
Yes.
There was a time, a few years ago, very few, I mean 2 years ago, a lot of people, as they came into the UK, they were dying.
Yes.
Even doctors.
Yes.
Probably, maybe, we don't know all, but some maybe due to pulmonary embolism.
Yeah.
other risk factors that
Yeah.
they did not know, because
Absolutely.
we've talked about having to pay out of pocket, like, out of the small salary you pay for your
Yeah.
health, which may not be convenient,
Yeah.
truthfully speaking. But now coming here, so if not that you check the blood pressure, maybe the man would have just slumped and died.
Absolutely.
And they will not be thinking, and the thing about death is that you'll not be thinking, what could I have done?
Yeah.
And that's why we are doing this. We are raising awareness for people to understand that it is very important to seek help
Yes,
and
absolutely.
to also tend your flowers. Okay,
Yes.
maybe not the big garden, maybe the kind of, or something precious.
Yes.
If you have something, okay, how do you treat your laptop? Because
Make
it's
sure you charge it.
expensive.
Even phone.
Phone. It must not crack. I have to buy gadgets, case. I even have another one that is very, very,
Yes.
thick, that once it falls, I know that it can't crack.
Yes.
So I think we need to treat our bodies like phones.
Yes.
So you gave an example, like for instance, in my own family, my grandmother had diabetes. So right from when I was a child, I knew
Mm-hmm.
it was very well controlled. They would say, "Hey, grandma has diabetes." My grandfather would eat boiled eggs. He worked in St. John's, or he worked with St. John's Ambulance in Lutz. Grandma sold things. She was a businesswoman. She could sew, but she sold plastics and some other things then. But I just knew. And then I knew that, mom's family had history of asthma.
Yeah.
Only my mom
Yeah.
does not. My mom does not have asthma. She's the only one exempted from her families. But then at some point growing up, I knew I had allergies. I was always very careful. Even the smell of petrol would make me have cold or cat. I would start sneezing. I had to now start looking after myself. And there are some places I can't go to, not because I don't want to go, but because I know there is a pattern of asthma. I remember there was a time I came to the UK. I was in a particular place and I was just coughing throughout the night, mold, respiratory, like I was just coughing. So because of that, I'm always careful about some places because I don't want to break down. I know the family. And then, so with the diabetes, so because of that, all the time, like I used to just give myself every 6 months, I check my blood glucose. Not because I'm afraid, but because I have to look after the phone or the flower God has given to me. So there was a particular year, there was a year, and I just felt something was strange. I was driving one day and I just felt that my eyes, went like pop, like dimmed. I'm like, what's this? And I used to check my eyes, and all that. Immediately, I think it was not even up to a year that I checked the previous one. And I had to just quickly, call the high people to say, please, this is what happened. I need to come in for checkup.
Yes.
And at the same time, I was like, I remember when they taught us in school, medical school, diabetic skin manifestation of diabetes. And I'm like, I just started thinking of 1, 2, 3 things. I just kept thinking. And then one day, after having after having that high symptoms, and then I went to the high people to check. Then I called my GP, and they were still trying to do like I said. See, I have family history of diabetes, and you know what? There are some things that you say that nobody would. Sometimes I tell people when say GP is not giving, I say, oh, I know what to say, and I'm not lying. Because already by the time you are seeing me, if I move from one area to the other, when they ask me a question, I say there's family history of X, Y, Z. Not because I'm ashamed, not because I don't have faith, but it's part of that health-seeking behavior. I remembered, I will still go back to the story. I remembered my mom's friends. They used to say, oh, this one has this. Just so that in case they go to parties or they go for parties and someone slumps, that this person actually has something. There's nothing to hide. Some of them did, they hide it or eat it at some point. But later, as they began to grow, they realized there's nothing to hide. I remember one of my, mom's friends, at some point she had checkups for ovarian cancer. She just felt that she was having bloatedness, she was bloated and everything. And she opened up, not because she was seeking an opinion. She was just letting me know. So, there's a time, an age, and we can start now where I can open up to say, see, this is it. I don't mean for everybody, but you can't go for, you are not well. And then you go to a party and then they are giving everybody juice. They are drinking it. Sometimes I remember the friend when I was my first year in the university. I was 23 years old. A friend would say to me, Sheon, life is unfair because at 23, our own sister was already working, established. But I was in my first year. But then another friend, our sister had finished the same age. They had moved on with their lives, but I was in first year.
Yeah.
But just understand that you have to own your journey.
Yeah.
So one of those days, so let me go back to the diabetes story. So after I got an appointment with the GP and they checked. My sugar was high. The point of care testing. I'm just trying to make it simple. That one that they prick, fingers,
Yes.
capillary testing.
Yeah.
It was 12 when I checked myself. When I walked into the GP, it was a Nigerian GP, a friend that saw me. It was 12. No, it was 10. It had drank water, so it had come down. And then she decided to take my bloods. My A1C was 55, and I'm like, God, I'm in trouble. And around that period, it was like a particular year, June, I was tired. I just dropped all those our Fitbits, watches, walking. I said, I'm tired. When I just come back home, I just want to just go and sleep, eat. And at that same time, somebody gave me fufu. Okay, let me not say the fufu. Fufu. And I really liked it. I was like, oh, this is really nice. Where have I been? Because of my family history, I don't drink Coke, I don't drink juice. I drink once in a while, but a year may go and I may not even drink. It does not bother me not because I had, high sugar, but because I know where I am coming from.
Yeah.
So this particular day, it was like my world came crashing, like, God, what am I doing? And then I went back home. So when the result came out, 55, 48 is the minimum. Or the borderline.
So normally anything less than 42 is fine, but between 42 and 48, they are, it's like borderline, and that's where they start to sort of repeat the test immediately and try to do things for you to come back down to 42. So
and I remembered on that occasion, my main GP come and said, but your blood sugar has been fine. What happened? Then I had to trace what I started eating. And as a matter of fact, I would go to work, I wouldn't eat, but I would have 4 apples. I didn't know that apples also had calories and then high sugar. And then I had to so I was like, I'm ready to take medications because for me, my own journey in life is that I just say, God, okay, this is the situation. So what can I do? God?
Yeah.
And I say, God, I'm ready. I'm facing it, but I'm ready to use the medication. But the doctor refused.
Yeah.
She's actually a Nigerian doctor. She refused, saying, no, go and work it out. So one of those days I had a dream. And I know some people would smile, but I just want to tell you my journey. I had a dream that there was an error. So I was happy in the lab, that error from the lab. I was really happy. And God said, no, go and work it out. I said, but I had a dream. There's an error. Let me quickly call the GP that maybe I should. God said, no. So I called a friend who works in the lab. I'm sure when she hears this story, she will laugh because I've told her. So I called her and she said, oh, time has gone. 2 weeks. We've discarded the sample.
I think usually 3 days.
Yeah. At some point, she even told me they were even keeping it for longer, for 1 week. But she said this particular one has been discarded. I said, yeah. So what can I do? So I would now walk. Like maybe sometime by the time I get back home, by the time, I would have done 18,000. I have it on my phone. I sent it to a friend so that it won't be like as though I'm lying. And from that point, by the time I checked the HbA1c, that's the test for the, whether one has diabetes or whether one's sugar is controlled within 3 months. Guess what? It was 32. By the time I checked again, it was 30.
Yeah.
By the time I checked again, 28. So now I've had to now incorporate lifestyles, just so that I don't get to that point. And there's something about patterns. Somebody said that, even with physical health patterns, if you are able to break a cycle, it would affect even your generation, fourth generation, even as we think about, spiritual, manifestation of these things.
Yeah.
So before we continue, I think we would like to pause, and then so that this episode will not be
Right.
too long,
Okay.
and then we would record another one.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to our stories. We are not yet done. We still have so many things for you. So, Dr. Zelda, you can wrap up this episode.
Anyway, thank you for listening, and just watch out for part 2.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.